By 2025, the battlefront had shifted dramatically. South Korean intelligence reported that tens of thousands of North Korean personnel were embedded in Russia, not merely ferrying supplies but deeply integrating into military operations. Their expertise spanned logistics, equipment maintenance, missile guidance, and training consultation. North Korea had become the lifeline for Russia's war efforts. When Pyongyang announced the sudden recall of these personnel, shockwaves rippled through the Kremlin. It wasn't merely a reduction in soldiers, it was the withdrawal of a very heartbeat of operational support that Russia had come to rely on. Just as Moscow's defenses were faltering under pressure from a resurgent Ukrainian army, this recall struck like a thunderclap. Ukrainian forces had gained momentum, gradually rolling back Russian positions along the Kursk axis, sowing confusion and fear. As reports piled in, it became clear that Russia was retreating. Troops were rerouted to border areas, and air defenses were heightened, yet these measures fell short. With UAVs and sabotage tactics hitting deep within Russian territory, the illusion of safety shattered, leaving military leaders in a state of acute alertness, a precarious situation for any armed force. At this critical juncture, Pyongyang's actions painted a stark picture. The medal ceremony, ostensibly a celebration of valor, concealed a deeper narrative. North Korean leadership recognized that their personnel were no longer safe. This decision to withdraw bore three dire consequences for Russia. The first was an operational void. The absence of seasoned North Korean advisors meant a significant dip in tactical guidance and logistical efficiency. Second, the crestfallen morale of Russian forces. North Korea had been the cornerstone of Moscow's narrative, an assertion that they were not fighting alone. With this support eroded, doubt crept into the ranks. The implications of this withdrawal extended even further. North Korea wielded its influence, signaling to the world that its support for Russia was conditional, subject to change. And in that moment, Kim Jong-un sent a clear message: control lay with him. The Kremlin's struggles were no longer hidden behind a veil of power, they had been laid bare before the international community. How vulnerable was Russia without its North Korean allies? As the echoes of this recall resonated, one could only wonder, what's next for a regime that now teeters at the edge of desperation? Could this be the moment that precipitates a significant shift in the balance of power? As the dust settles on the battlefield, a shocking twist emerges from the heart of Pyongyang. North Korea's sudden recall of its elite officers from Russia sends ripples of uncertainty through the Kremlin. This decision, made at a time when Moscow desperately needs support, raises eyebrows and questions. Is this a strategic retreat or a sign of deeper fractures in the alliance? The stakes have never been higher. In the shadows of military strategy, the losses of North Korean officers in Russia remain a closely guarded secret. The regime, keen on maintaining its grip on power, uses the recall as a tool to reshape the narrative. Medal ceremonies in Pyongyang paint a picture of heroism, presenting returning personnel as victorious champions. Yet, behind the pomp and circumstance lies a stark reality: actual losses and failures are swept under the rug. The regime's propaganda machine works tirelessly to ensure that the image of success prevails, even as the truth remains hidden. International pressures loom large, with the United States and the European Union tightening their grip on sanctions against nations aiding Russia. North Korea, already under heavy scrutiny, faces the risk of further isolation. By withdrawing its high-ranking officers, Kim Jong-un sends a clear message: how far can you go without us? This maneuver not only protects North Korea from greater sanctions but also serves as a stark reminder to Moscow of its reliance on Pyongyang. The psychological impact of this decision cannot be overstated. As Russia finds itself increasingly isolated, the recall of North Korean personnel strikes a blow to Kremlin morale. It signals that even allies are reconsidering their commitments. This is not merely a military rotation, it is a strategic recalibration that underscores North Korea's newfound leverage. The world watches as Pyongyang redefines its role, asserting that it can dictate terms rather than simply providing support. So, what lies behind this unexpected withdrawal? The first possibility is operational regrouping. After months of grueling service on the front lines, North Korean officers may be worn down, their effectiveness diminished. The medal ceremony in Pyongyang could be a signal that they have fulfilled their duty and are now being prepared for a second wave of involvement. But is there more to this story than meets the eye? As the tension escalates, the implications of this decision ripple through the battlefield. The absence of North Korean expertise in logistics and ammunition management could create vulnerabilities for Russia. With Ukraine intensifying its offensive, the Kremlin's reliance on Pyongyang's support is now exposed. The question remains, will this withdrawal embolden Ukraine to strike harder, or will it merely be a temporary setback for Russia? The answers lie in the unfolding drama of war, where every move can change the course of history. In a shocking turn of events, North Korea's sudden withdrawal of high-ranking military personnel from Russia has sent ripples through the Kremlin, raising urgent questions about the stability of Moscow's war efforts. As the echoes of marching boots fade, one must wonder, what does this mean for the future of Russia's military strategy? The stakes have never been higher, and the implications are profound. Previously, North Korean officers played pivotal roles in securing ammunition and logistics for Russia, acting as a lifeline in the ongoing conflict. Their departure now leaves a gaping hole in Moscow's operational capabilities. As Ukraine intensifies its pressure in the Kursk, Belgorod, and Bryansk regions, the Russian army finds itself increasingly isolated, stripped of the support it once relied upon. The atmosphere is thick with tension, and the scent of uncertainty hangs heavy in the air. This retreat is not merely a logistical setback, it carries significant international ramifications. China, Russia's largest strategic partner, may begin to reconsider its support as the costs of backing Moscow rise. The message is clear, even allies are wary of the Kremlin's faltering grip on the situation. Countries like India, which have maintained a neutral stance, may now view Russia as a less reliable partner. The geopolitical landscape is shifting, and the ground beneath Moscow is becoming increasingly unstable. Psychologically, the impact on the Russian populace could be devastating. For months, propaganda has painted a picture of unwavering support from allies. Now, with North Korea's withdrawal, the narrative is crumbling. Questions will arise among the Russian people, are we truly alone in this fight? This doubt could seep into the minds of soldiers on the front lines, where belief and motivation are as crucial as weaponry. If they sense abandonment, the resolve to resist may falter. As the world watches, North Korea's decision not only highlights Putin's isolation but also serves as a psychological victory for the West. The balance of power is shifting, and the Kremlin's vulnerabilities are being laid bare. What will be the next move in this high-stakes game? The answers remain uncertain, but one thing is clear, the landscape of international relations is evolving, and the consequences of this withdrawal will be felt far beyond the battlefield. An unexpected order from North Korea has sent shockwaves through Moscow. As the Russian front lines faced a critical shortage of ammunition, a desperate agreement was forged with Kim Jong-un last year. This pact not only promised supplies but also involved sending North Korean generals and elite soldiers to assist in Ukraine. Under their command, the Russian military received vital repairs, technicians, and ammunition. Yet, just as the war reached a pivotal moment, Pyongyang made a stunning move. It recalled its high-ranking officers from Russia. What could possibly lie behind this abrupt decision? One thing is clear, Kim Jong-un has signaled a shift in power dynamics, declaring, "The balance is now in my hands." Before the recall, a grand ceremony unfolded in Pyongyang. Kim Jong-un proudly presented medals to the overseas operation officers and their families, framing it as a victory celebration. But the timing of the withdrawal raises a critical question. Was this a triumphant farewell or a sign of a deepening rift between Moscow and Pyongyang? This sudden maneuver reflects not just a military rotation but also Putin's growing vulnerability on the battlefield. Throughout the conflict, the Kremlin has relied heavily on North Korea, especially during crucial moments. In 2024 and 2025, North Korea supplied vast quantities of ammunition and ballistic missiles, which were confirmed by the US and European Union to have been used in assaults on Ukrainian cities. Initially mocked for their inaccuracy, North Korean short-range missiles have seen improvements, thanks in part to the technical teams deployed to the front lines. As the Ukrainian army began to push back against Russian forces along the Kursk axis, the timing of North Korea's recall could not be more critical. Reports indicated that Russia was forced into a defensive posture, struggling to maintain control as Ukrainian UAVs and sabotage operations penetrated deep into its territory. The Kremlin's facade of security crumbled, leaving even foreign officers feeling vulnerable. In this precarious environment, Pyongyang's decision to withdraw its personnel was not merely a logistical maneuver, it was a stark acknowledgement that the rear was no longer safe. For Moscow, this recall dealt three significant blows. First, it created an operational gap. diminishing the advisory role of North Korean experts in ammunition and logistical support. Second, it shattered morale, as North Korea's backing had been a cornerstone of the Kremlin's narrative of strength. Finally, it sent a powerful message to the international community: Pyongyang is willing to redefine its support for Moscow at will, exposing the Kremlin's weaknesses to the world. As the situation unfolds, the implications of North Korea's withdrawal extend far beyond mere troop rotations. The Kremlin's reliance on Pyongyang has been laid bare, and the withdrawal of these critical advisors opens new opportunities for Ukraine. With the loss of North Korean technical guidance, Russia's logistical capabilities will weaken, allowing Ukraine to exploit gaps in the Russian defenses. The ongoing pressure in the Kursk, Belgorod, and Bryansk regions may now face less resistance, potentially turning the tide in favor of Ukraine. In this high-stakes game of power, the question remains: what will be the next move from both Pyongyang and Moscow? As the world watches, the balance of power shifts, and the consequences of this unexpected recall could reshape the battlefield in ways no one anticipated. As the world watches and speculates, the Kremlin stands at a crossroads. Russia has long touted its alliances as pillars of strength, yet now, that facade is crumbling, revealing a stark reality: even its closest allies are stepping back. The pressing question lingers: is North Korea truly severing ties with Putin, or is something far more intricate unfolding? Kim Jong-un's recall of personnel has become both a tactical retreat and a potential power play, suggesting that the balance of power is shifting unexpectedly. In recent days, strategists in Western capitals have been buoyed by North Korea's withdrawal, interpreting it as a sign of Russia's increasing isolation. This move complicates Moscow's already precarious position, paving the way for fresh sanctions and diplomatic pressures. Once strengthened by perceived solidarity, Russian leaders now face doubts that reverberate through their ranks. Is this a decisive moment, signaling that trust among allies is fading, or merely a strategic maneuver? The implications resonate deeply. As the Russian military grapples with the impacts of North Korea's withdrawal, cracks are beginning to form within the ranks. Soldiers, bolstered by the propaganda of steadfast companionship, now must confront a haunting question: are they truly alone? In a conflict where resolve is as vital as firepower, a wavering belief can spell disaster on the battlefield. Meanwhile, in the broader geopolitical arena, the ramifications are astounding. With Kim Jong-un indirectly signaling a need to renegotiate, the world is witnessing the first tremors of a potential shift in alliances. Moscow's failure to hold its supporters raises alarms not only for Putin but also for nations like China that have been cautious in their loyalty. The cost of alignment may soon outweigh the benefits, leading to a re-evaluation of their own support. In the midst of this turmoil, one crucial realization surfaces. The Kremlin's current crisis is not merely about military strategy, it's an existential struggle to maintain influence. As allies retreat and the costs of support escalate, Russia's position becomes increasingly vulnerable, teetering on the edge of a significant diplomatic crisis. The narrative of unyielding strength and solidarity has been shattered, leaving Putin to contend with an unsettling truth: the very foundation of his wartime strategy is eroding, exposing a startling vulnerability. And just when it seems the walls are closing in, a shocking twist emerges. It's not just about abandoning allies, it's about exerting newfound leverage. Kim Jong-un might not be retreating to hide but rather to position himself for a negotiation that could redefine the power dynamics between Russia, North Korea, and the West. As the chess pieces shift, one must wonder, who will ultimately dictate the terms in this high-stakes geopolitical game? The true answer may lie just beyond the horizon, waiting to unfold in dramatic fashion. As tensions escalate and the stakes rise, one thing is certain: the world is on the edge of an unprecedented turning point. The news from Pyongyang sent shockwaves through Moscow. North Korea's unexpected recall of high-ranking military personnel stationed in Russia has become a turning point in the ongoing war. Just a year ago, an agreement between Kim Jong-un and the Kremlin had forged a crucial alliance, sending North Korean generals and elite troops to bolster Russia's failing front. Now, however, Pyongyang's decision to withdraw these officials at a critical juncture raises questions. Why pull back at a moment when Russia is desperate for support? Only days before the withdrawal, Kim Jong-un proudly honored his officers in a lavish ceremony, presenting them with medals in front of North Korean media. Was this a victory celebration or an ominous signal of cracking relations? Interestingly, this recall occurs as Ukraine's forces gain momentum, pushing deeper into Russian territory on the Kursk axis. The question looms, has Kim Jong-un asserted his power, proving that he holds the reins now? The implications of this decision ripple far beyond operational logistics. Moscow faces three severe repercussions: a loss of operational capacity, a drastic drop in morale, and a stark international message that even its allies are losing faith. Russia, which previously boasted about its alliance with North Korea, now finds its narrative shattered. As troops in regions like Kursk brace for renewed Ukrainian offensives, the lack of North Korean support becomes palpably evident. With their high-ranking advisors gone, how can the Kremlin navigate this fraught landscape? The withdrawal can't simply be framed as a routine rotation. It represents something deeper, a reflection of internal struggles within North Korea and a response to external pressures. The regime, grappling with economic turmoil at home, is tightening its grip on domestic narratives, masking losses while proclaiming victory abroad. The timing of this audacious pullout hints at a shift, not just in strategy, but in power dynamics, as Kim sends a clear message to Putin: "You are not my only concern anymore." As Ukraine capitalizes on this new advantage, the door swings wide open for NATO allies to further support Kyiv. Recent military commitments from Germany, Poland, and the UK signify a unified response feeding on the perception of a crumbling Russian alliance. This growing recognition of Russia's vulnerability stokes the flames of opportunity for a nation fighting for its survival. The psychological impact is profound, indicating that Moscow's lies of strength are beginning to fray at the edges. This spiraling reality harks back to the waning days of the Soviet Union, when once reliable allies began to drift away. Just like then, the ground beneath the Kremlin is shifting swiftly, but this time it's amplified by ongoing conflicts in Ukraine. Will this historical echo result in further isolation for Russia, or will the Kremlin devise a strategy to weather this storm of discontent? As Kim draws his forces back, the battle of wills heightens between allies, changing the course of not just warfare, but geopolitical allegiances. The stakes are higher than ever, leaving the world to wonder, how far will Putin go to secure his hold amid crumbling support? In a shocking twist, North Korea's sudden recall of high-ranking military officers from Russia has sent ripples through the Kremlin, revealing a precarious balance of power. Just as the Ukrainian forces intensified their offensive, pushing deeper into Russian territory, Kim Jong-un's decision raises a chilling question: is this a strategic retreat or a declaration of independence from Moscow's grasp? The Kremlin's reliance on North Korean support has been a cornerstone of its military strategy, a lifeline that now appears to be fraying. The withdrawal of these elite personnel not only creates an operational gap but also shatters the morale of Russian troops, who have long been buoyed by the illusion of solidarity. The North Korean regime, known for its tight control over narratives, now faces a dilemma: how to spin this retreat as a victory while concealing the reality of losses from its own people. As the medal ceremony in Pyongyang celebrated the returning officers, the underlying tension was palpable. Was this a triumphant homecoming or a desperate attempt to mask the cracks in the alliance? The timing of the recall, coinciding with Ukraine's advances, suggests a calculated move by Pyongyang to assert its autonomy. The message is clear: Kim Jong-un is redefining the terms of engagement, leaving Putin to grapple with the consequences. But what lies ahead for Russia? The absence of North Korean expertise in logistics and ammunition management could spell disaster on the battlefield. As Ukrainian forces exploit this vulnerability, the Kremlin's myth of invincibility crumbles. The question looms: can Russia withstand this blow, or is it on the brink of a catastrophic collapse? With the stakes higher than ever, the world watches as the balance of power shifts. North Korea's withdrawal is not merely a logistical maneuver, it is a stark reminder of the fragility of alliances in times of war. As the echoes of artillery fire resonate across the front lines, one thing is certain: the game has changed, and the consequences will be felt far beyond the borders of Ukraine and Russia. What will be the next move in this high-stakes chess match?